He fought for her with a sacred weapon, not knowing it sealed their souls together. The Guardian's intervention. The twin moons of Terralus cast long shadows across the ancient arena, their pale light illuminating the circle of weathered stone where Lyra Namanis fought for her life. Sweat glistened on her bronze skin as she parried another vicious strike from Commander Vex, her arms trembling with exhaustion. The gathered crowd of Terralians and Offworlders alike roared with each clash of weapons, the sound echoing against the towering cliffs surrounding the sacred dueling grounds. Eden Ravencroft watched from the shadows, his human features concealed beneath a hooded cloak. He had come to this distant world as a mercenary, hired by the Terralian Council to strengthen their dwindling forces against the aggressive Karish Empire. Politics, however, were far from his mind as he observed the duel with growing concern. Lyra moved with fluid grace, her curved blade dancing in the moonlight as she defended against her opponent's relentless assault. Yet despite her skill, Eden could see the telltale signs of deliberate sabotage. Her weapon had been tampered with, the balance subtly altered to favor her opponent. Commander Vex, with his hulking frame and ceremonial armor, pressed his advantage without honor or mercy. "Yield, Defender Namanis," Vex growled, his voice carrying across the arena. "Your clan's time as guardians of the sacred relics has ended." "The Namanis line does not yield," Lyra responded, her voice steady despite her fatigue. "We have protected the heart of Terralus for 7 generations. I will not be the one to break that oath." The crowd's fervor intensified as Vex launched a particularly brutal attack. Lyra barely managed to deflect the blow, but the force sent her stumbling backward. Her foot caught on an uneven stone, another coincidence that Eden immediately recognized as sabotage. She fell hard, her weapon skittering across the arena floor. Vex advanced, his blade raised for what would surely be a killing strike. "The Karish Empire thanks you for your service," he sneered. Something inside Eden snapped. Without conscious thought, he vaulted over the low wall separating spectators from combatants. In 3 swift strides, he reached Lyra's fallen weapon, an ornate sword with strange symbols etched along its blade. The moment his fingers closed around the hilt, a surge of energy coursed through him, warm and almost alive. He raised the blade just in time to block Vex's downward strike. The impact jarred his bones, but he held firm, human strength matching the Terralian's superior power. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by Eden's measured breathing and the strange, melodic hum emanating from the sword in his hands. It felt right somehow, as if it had been waiting for him. "Outsiders may not interfere." Vex roared, spittle flying from his lips. "This is a sacred duel." "There's nothing sacred about cheating," Eden replied calmly, adjusting his stance. "Your sabotage nullifies any claim to honor you might have had." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Behind him, Lyra stared with wide, opal-colored eyes that reflected the moonlight. Her expression shifted from shock to something unreadable. "You know nothing of our ways, human," Vex snarled, preparing for another attack. "I know enough about fairness," Eden countered, the sword humming louder in his grip as if responding to his conviction. "Yield now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Vex's response was another powerful strike. Eden parried it with surprising ease, the sword moving almost of its own accord, guiding his hands. For several minutes, they exchanged blows, Eden gradually forcing Vex back toward the edge of the arena. The commander's face contorted with rage and disbelief as a mere human matched him blow for blow. From the corner of his eye, Eden saw Lyra rise to her feet, her posture tense. The Terralian elders had gathered at the edge of the arena, their faces a mixture of outrage and fascination. Something significant was happening, something beyond a simple interruption of their traditions. With a final, precise movement, Eden disarmed Vex, sending the commander's weapon spinning through the air. It clattered to the ground several meters away. Eden held the tip of Lyra's sword to Vex's throat. "It's over," he said quietly. Vex's eyes burned with hatred, but he stepped back, acknowledging defeat. "This isn't finished, outsider," he hissed before turning and striding from the arena. As the tension slowly dissipated, Eden lowered the sword and turned to Lyra. He extended his hand, helping her to her feet. The moment their skin touched, another surge of energy passed between them, like an electrical current completing a circuit. "Thank you," she said, her voice carrying a new note of wonder. "But I fear you don't understand what you've done." Eden glanced at the sword in his hand, still humming with that strange energy. "Then explain it to me." Lyra's eyes moved from his face to the weapon and back again. "That is the soul blade of Terralus, passed down through my family for generations. It chooses its wielder, and once chosen." She hesitated. "The blade has accepted you. By wielding it in my defense, you've created a bond that cannot be broken." Before Eden could ask what she meant, the elders approached, their expressions grave. The eldest among them, a woman with silver hair and skin lined with age, stepped forward. "Eden of Earth," she intoned, her voice carrying despite its softness. "By taking up the soul blade in defense of Lyra Namanis, you have invoked an ancient right. The blade has accepted you as its wielder, binding your soul to hers in the eyes of our law and tradition." Eden blinked, certain he had misunderstood. "Binding my soul? What does that mean exactly?" "It means," Lyra said quietly, "that we are now connected in ways even my people don't fully understand. Where I go, you must follow. My battles are now yours, as yours are mine." The elder nodded solemnly. "The soul blade has chosen after remaining dormant for a generation. This is a significant omen in troubling times." She looked at Eden with penetrating eyes. "You came to Terralus as a mercenary, but fate has given you a greater purpose. The bond between you cannot be severed except by death itself." Eden looked down at the blade in his hand, then at Lyra, whose expression had softened into something approaching hope. He had come to this world seeking employment, perhaps even purpose. Instead, he'd found himself inexplicably tied to a woman he barely knew, in a culture he didn't understand. "I need time," he said finally. "Time to understand what this means." The elder nodded. "Time you shall have, Eden of Earth. One cycle of the greater moon to learn our ways and the significance of the bond you now share." As the crowd began to disperse, Lyra stepped closer. "I understand your confusion," she said, her voice for his ears alone. "But know this, the blade chooses only those with the strength to bear its burden. It saw something in you that none of us could." Eden met her gaze, finding himself drawn to the quiet strength he saw there. "I'll try," he promised, the words feeling like a vow he hadn't intended to make. "I'll try to understand, to be worthy of this." Lyra's lips curved in a slight smile. "Then we will learn together, Eden of Earth. The path ahead may not be what either of us expected, but we will walk it side by side." And so began a journey neither could have anticipated, a human mercenary and a Terralian defender, bound by an ancient magic and a destiny that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. Bonds of Destiny. The dawn broke over the ancient city of Viridian, casting long shadows across the training grounds where Eden had spent the last 4 hours. His muscles burned with exertion as he moved through the complex forms Lyra had taught him, the soul blade singing through the air with each precise movement. Despite his years of combat experience across a dozen worlds, the Terralian fighting style challenged him in ways he hadn't expected, emphasizing flow and connection rather than brute force. "Your balance is improving," Lyra observed from the edge of the circular platform. She approached with 2 steaming cups of a fragrant herbal brew that had become part of their morning ritual. "But you're still thinking too much." Eden lowered the blade, accepting the offered drink with a grateful nod. "Old habits die hard. 20 years of mercenary work doesn't disappear overnight. The blade doesn't require thought," she reminded him gently. "It responds to intention, to the essence of your spirit. That's why the bond works as it does." They sat together on the stone bench that ringed the platform, watching as the city came to life below them. Viridian was unlike any human settlement Eden had ever seen, buildings of pale blue stone that seemed to grow organically from the mountainside, connected by graceful arches and hanging gardens. The beauty of it still caught him by surprise sometimes. The first trial begins tomorrow, Lyra said after a comfortable silence. The trial of body is traditionally held in the caverns of Echo. What should I expect? Her expression grew serious. Normally, it would be a test of combat skill against other warriors. But with Vex manipulating the council. She shook her head. I suspect he'll have ensured something far more dangerous. Through their strengthening bond, Eden could sense her concern, not for herself, he realized, but for him. I've survived worse odds, he assured her, surprised by his own desire to ease her worry. Perhaps. Her opal eyes studied him with unnerving intensity. But there's something you should know before we face the trial. Something about the soul blade that even most Turalians don't understand. Eden set down his cup, giving her his full attention. Over the past days, he'd learned that when Lyra spoke in that particular tone, what followed was invariably important. The blade doesn't just connect us, she continued, her voice dropping to ensure privacy despite the empty training ground. It amplifies what's already there. Emotions, intentions, strengths, and weaknesses. In the trials, we'll be more vulnerable to each other than ever before. Meaning what, exactly? Her gaze dropped to the blade resting across his knees. Meaning you'll feel what I feel, and I'll feel what you feel. There will be no secrets between us, no barriers. A faint blush colored her bronze cheeks. It's why the bond is considered sacred among my people. It's the most intimate connection possible between two souls. The implications of her words settled over Eden like a physical weight. His entire adult life had been defined by careful distance, emotional and physical, from those around him. The thought of someone seeing past his carefully constructed walls sent a spike of panic through him. Lyra flinched slightly, and he realized with a start that she had felt his reaction through their bond. I'm sorry, he said quickly. It's not you, it's... I understand, she interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. Your life has taught you that vulnerability equals danger. Mine has taught me the same in many ways. She hesitated, then placed her hand lightly over his. But the blade chose us both, Eden. Whatever lies between us, whatever potential it sensed, is worth exploring. Worth fighting for. Before he could respond, a commotion at the far end of the training ground drew their attention. A group of Turalian guards approached, led by none other than Commander Vex himself. His imposing figure, clad in the ceremonial armor of the Turalian military, cut an intimidating silhouette against the morning sky. Defender Nemanes, he called, his voice carrying across the open space. The council has requested your immediate presence. Alone. Eden felt Lyra tense beside him. Through their bond, her suspicion bloomed like a storm cloud. What's this about, Commander? She asked, rising to her feet. Vex's expression remained neutral, but Eden caught the flash of malice in his eyes. New evidence has emerged regarding your clan's stewardship of the sacred artifacts. The council wishes to discuss it with you privately. A distraction, Eden murmured, instinctively gripping the soul blade tighter. They want to separate us before the trial. Lyra nodded imperceptibly. Tell the council I will attend them shortly, she called to Vex. After I've completed this morning's training with my bond partner. Fury rippled across Vex's features before he could master it. The council summons is not optional, Defender. Neither is proper preparation for the sacred trials, she countered smoothly. As you well know, Commander. I will attend them within the hour, as tradition allows. For a tense moment, it seemed Vex might argue further. Instead, he offered a stiff bow that barely qualified as respectful. 1 hour, Defender. Not a moment more. With a sharp gesture to his guards, he turned and strode away. When they were alone again, Eden turned to Lyra. What was that about? She was already gathering her things, movements quick and efficient. A ploy, as you guessed. They want to separate us, weaken our connection before the trial. Her eyes met his, determination hardening her gaze. But we can use this to our advantage. How? While I keep the council occupied with whatever false accusations they've concocted, you'll visit the archives. There's something there we need, information about the last time an off-worlder bonded with the Soul Blade. Eden blinked in surprise. This has happened before. Once, 3 centuries ago. The records were sealed by the council, but as a Namanis, I have access. She pressed a small crystal key into his palm. This will guide you to the restricted section. Find everything you can about Joran Thule and his bond with my ancestor, Serena Namanis. And you think this will help us with the trials? Her expression softened slightly. I think it will help you understand what's happening between us. What's possible? She hesitated, then added, Joran and Serena faced similar opposition, similar accusations that their bond was invalid because he was human. Yet they not only survived their trials but achieved something extraordinary. Curiosity piqued, Eden pocketed the crystal key. What did they achieve? A ghost of a smile touched Lyra's lips. That's what you need to discover. The official records say only that they transcended the limitations of the bond, but family lore suggests much more. She glanced toward the direction Vex had departed. We have little time. I'll delay the council as long as possible, but move quickly and trust no one. The archives attendant, Kiro, is loyal to my family. Tell him I sent you, and he'll help. As she turned to leave, Eden caught her wrist gently. Lyra, wait. What if this is more than a distraction? What if you're walking into danger? The concern in his voice surprised them both. Through their bond, he felt her momentary confusion, followed by a warm certainty that made his heart beat faster. The bond works both ways, she reminded him softly. If I'm in true danger, you'll know. And if that happens? She placed her free hand over the soul blade. Trust the connection between us. It's stronger than anything Vex can throw at us. With that, she slipped from his grasp and moved toward the city, her back straight and head high, every inch the defender her people respected. Eden watched her go, the soul blade humming with quiet energy at his side. Whatever was happening between them went beyond the mystical properties of an ancient weapon. The bond might have been forged unexpectedly, but with each passing day, it felt less like an imposition and more like a revelation, as if he'd spent his life searching for something he hadn't known was missing until now. With newfound resolve, he headed toward the archives, a sprawling structure of crystal and stone that housed millennia of Terralian knowledge. The crystal key Lyra had given him pulsed gently in his pocket, almost like a heartbeat. Whatever secrets lay in the story of Joran and Serena, Eden was determined to uncover them. Not just for the sake of passing their trials, but to understand the true nature of the connection that was rapidly becoming the most important thing in his life. As he walked through the bustling morning streets of Viridian, the soul blade at his side and Lyra's presence a constant awareness in the back of his mind, Eden realized that for the first time in decades, he was no longer alone. And strangest of all, he found he didn't want to be. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but they would face it together, two souls bound by ancient magic and something even more powerful, choice. For despite the circumstances that had brought them together, Eden now recognized that he was exactly where he wanted to be. The realization was as terrifying as it was liberating. And as he approached the towering doors of the archives, the soul blade hummed in agreement, as if to say, this is only the beginning.